Please join me in welcoming our guest, Andrea Martin.
Hey, everyone. Thank you, Teresa. So cool.
So let's just dive right in. For those of you new to the format, we'll have an onstage conversation and look at some clips from Andrea's career, and then we'll be sure to leave time for you to ask questions at the end. So let's start with how your career began. We have a number of students here of performance studies, acting, theater, scriptwriting, production. As an actress with a wide range of projects on stage and on screen, can you talk about how your career began?
My career began in Portland, Maine, in the Portland, Maine Children's Theater production of Cinderella, and I played the fairy godmother. I was 9 years old, and I was beginning to play character parts for all of you. I already know. I always know how hip the audience is with acting when I say I was 9 and I played a character part, and they laugh. Okay, so that was the beginning. Acting was just a hobby for me. I think now when you're 9 years old, you actually think, because of all the reality programming, that you can actually parlay it into a career. But for me, it was a hobby, and I loved it. And then every summer after children's theater, I did summer stock. And my first professional show was playing Liat in South Pacific. And even though she was a Polynesian girl, that is Polynesian, I'm Armenian. That was the closest you can get to Polynesian in Portland, Maine. So I played the part of Liat, and it was in a New York professional company of South Pacific, but they cast the small parts locally. And then I really kind of got the bug. I thought, wow, I really love these musical comedies. And that's what I did every summer. I would do summer stock. I don't even know if you know what summer stock is anymore. Is that a word that's used? Are there young students out there that know what summer stock is? No, silence, just fear that I'm going to ask somebody
I see them
something.
Nodding. They're saying
nodding. Yeah, I guess maybe it's called now regional theater in the summertime, but summer stock. It still exists. There are still a few theaters in New England, and they were like barns, really. And professional theaters would come from New York, and they would tour every summer. There's one really famous one in Maine called the Algonquin Summer Theater. And, really respected actors would tour to these summer programs, summer theaters, and people vacationing would go and support it. I just saw Sally Struthers in Hello, Dolly, and she was fabulous. In Chicago, came there. Anyway, that's how I started, and that's what I did every single summer until I went to college. And then I continued doing summer theater until I graduated.
So you mentioned that you were performing at a very young age. So your parents were supportive when it was a hobby. Were they supportive when it became a career?
I don't know if they understood that it was a career move. They were as supportive as somebody, young hockey player. Maybe they'd be more supportive here. I guess they'd push you into that in Canada to be a hockey star. It was just something that I liked, and it kept me out of trouble. And I was, a highly spirited young girl. So I think they were just happy I was safe for 2 hours working out with a children's theater production. And as I said last night I was here last night speaking, that I don't really think they ever understood it could be a career. When I won the Tony Award, my dad said, now do you think you'll get a break? And I think a break to him, that sent me into therapy from then until the present. I think he meant by get a break, I think he meant now will you be Carol Burnett? Now will you be a mainstream comedian? But SCTV certainly wasn't mainstream. And it was so irreverent, I don't think he really understood it. I think they were proud, but I don't think they really ever got that it was a legit career.
So we're just going to jump into 1973 Cannibal Girls.
Sure.
I don't know if you've seen it. If you haven't seen it, you really need to get a copy of this amazing
Cannibal Girls
film. It was the second film project that you did with Ivan Reitman and Eugene Levy.
Yes, the first movie I did, even though Ivan Reitman will not admit it, was a film called Foxy Lady. And, it went right to the drive-in theater circuit, which is right up there with the summer stock circuit. And it went right to the drive-in theaters. I don't know if you could even see it in movie theaters, but then a company, a horror film company, I think it was called American Pictures International, re-released it with this kind of gimmicky thing that every time something horrific was going to happen, a bell was going to go off in the theater to warn you. I don't know, warn you to do what? Go get popcorn? I don't know. But it went, so Eugene Levy and I had met Ivan. I was a really young girl. I think I was 22 years old. I didn't really know much about anything. And Ivan said, I want to star you and Eugene in Cannibal Girls. And I guess what star meant to him was, I want you to improvise the entire film because we don't have a script. And that's what we did. And I haven't seen that movie since 1974. And last night they showed a clip. I was stunned at how high my voice was. So I'm really concentrating this afternoon and lowering my voice because obviously I was a kind of scared actress because everything sounded like this when I talked, as you'll see right now. Roll the clip. Oh my God. Okay. How about the high-pitched voice and the really inferior improv? Thank you so much for being here and supporting.
So obviously this horror film also has comedic undertones.
Yes.
The fact that everyone's laughing. You mentioned that it was highly improvised.
Yeah, it was
it?
Literally all improvised.
So there was no guidance at all?
There was no script. There was, I think, and now you'll be in the car and it's stuck, or now you're running through the snow. We were never given a script, just kind of guidelines of where it had to go. And
so I feel like students here are probably thinking that's a little contradictory from what they're taught in school, which is to plan everything and to, if you're a filmmaker, you have to have the production schedule, you have to have everything. So in your experience, some of the first films you made, it was all improv.
What was the second film I made? Let me see, Cannibal Girls. And then I don't think I did another film for a while. I think that, as you know out there, because you're students, that improv is, the big trend right now. And I think if you are fortunate enough to work with Judd Apatow or Seth Rogen or Jonah Hill, and the directors that direct those young actors, and I can't now think of who did Pineapple Express. Do you know the director? Can't remember his name. Anyway, what they really want you to do, and when you audition, what you will see is what even though there's a script, you'll read the script, and then the directors will say, I mean, I'm talking about this genre of comedy, the hottest genre right now. Even Bridesmaids. What they'll say to you is, okay, now throw the script away, now just improvise. So any of you training right now in improv, I think it's a really valuable asset. I think, with the success of Bridesmaids, I can see a lot of girls out there, the success of Bridesmaids, Saturday Night Live with Kristen Wiig and Melissa McCarthy, all those kids that have come from improv, I think that it's invaluable. So bravo if you're taking classes, and if you're not, I would really look into it.
It's interesting to think of how there was that complete shift, but if you think about it, there's always been people that have been shifting from improv into pilots that are highly scripted, into shows that are highly scripted.
That's true. I think I didn't start with Second City, but that's really what gave me my professional career was SCTV. And, we all the actors in the company, Catherine, Eugene, Dave, Joe, Eugene, Marty, John Candy, Rick Moranis, all of us had done improv. And then when we left SCTV and then were cast in films, it felt very intrusive that we couldn't change a line and we had to stick to the script. I found it very difficult. I think a lot of us did, that we couldn't make it our own. We couldn't kind of fudge around the lines. And then all of a sudden, everything shifted, and now that's actually what they want.
About this balance, too, of the scripted and the improv, we read that in your early days when you were doing Stratford and SCTV, so you would do Stratford in the day and then drive down at night to do SCTV. I'm sure a lot of people...
you know that. Yeah, that was crazy because I did private lives with Maggie Smith and Brian Bedford literally had never acted on stage in a drama before. I was so crazily overwhelmed. We did the table read. Well, I was cast as the old lady in Candide, and it's repertory there, so they thought, why not cast her as Sybil in Private Lives? At the same time, she can do repertory. No, she can't. She couldn't have. She didn't know how to do Noel Coward with Maggie Smith and Brian Bedford. So I remember the first table read. We're sitting around, and of course they're British. And I went, Ellie, dear, do come out. The boat's on the water. And then the director came over to me, Robin Phillips, and said, don't do an English accent. Sybil will be American in this production. That's how it started. So I would do that during the day, and then I'd, do like Edith Prickley, and hello, everybody, and then go back and do, Sybil, hello, Ellie, dear. It was the most ridiculous, kind of schizophrenic, but it was fabulous, though, because it really allowed me to be flexible and forced me to be flexible.
So you mentioned Edith Prickley. Can you talk a little bit about the process of how you would write scripts or how you would write sketches, or how
Well, I'll tell you how, Edith. Are there any students from Second City out there? Oh, wow, fabulous. Okay. Were you in the audience last night? Oh, that's so cool. I'm going to try not to repeat stories from last night. I'll tell you how Edith Prickley started. As you know, all of you from Second City, you're asked to bring in old clothes and costumes or whatever you have from home. I don't know if that still happens, but we were asked to bring in anything that we had, or we'd go to Cripple. Is there such a thing as Cripple Civilian? Is that still the name of it here? Is it no Salvation Army, or so any of those? Cripple Civilian was the name of a Salvation Army. Is that right? Am I right about that? Anybody my age out there? Is that right? Okay, yeah. So we'd go to these secondhand places, and we'd get clothes, and they could be wacky, and we'd get some glasses, props, and put them backstage. And Catherine O'Hara brought in her mother's leopard from the 50s, her mother's leopard jacket and her mother's leopard hat. And they were backstage, and the suggestion from the audience after our show, we did the improv section, and the suggestion was, do a PTA meeting where all the parents are delinquent and their kids aren't. So all right. So I pulled the leopard hat off the shelf and the leopard jacket. I didn't have a character. I didn't have a name, but I thought, well, that seems like a wacky woman to be at a PTA meeting, sounded outrageous and outspoken and leopard. And I came through the door, and Catherine O'Hara said, you must be Mrs. Prickley. And I said, that's right, dear. Edith's the name, Sebastian's the game. Like Sebastian was my son's name. And it stuck. That's how the character, and you know what? I still have that jacket and hat, and I still use it in my show. The buttons pop a tiny little bit, but I've taped it down with Velcro because I refuse to get a bigger jacket. That's how Edith Prickley was born.
Well, let's show a clip of Edith Prickley. So you mentioned last night that 2 days later you gave birth to your son. Yes. After shooting that. Yes,
2 days later I gave birth to my son Jack at St. Mike's Hospital. But nobody was going to stop me.
No, yeah, clearly. So. You mentioned before a little bit about the process. You received much acclaim and Emmys for your writing on SCTV. Did you start off with writing, or did you start off with... Did your first writing experience start with improv?
Yes, it did. Yeah. So we improvised on stage, and I guess you would call that writing. But the writing in with a typewriter in a 4-room enclosed wall with no audience laughing was SCTV. Yeah.
And now you are writing your own book.
Yeah. Oh wow. Yeah. No, I've done some writing since then. I've written my own. I've written 2 one-woman shows and written articles for Parents Canada magazine and a travel thing and spa magazines, but this feels so much different writing a book. It just feels like there's a lot of baggage that comes with it, a lot of expectation, I guess. But you know what? I'm loving it when I'm in the zone. For you writers out there, it's a fabulous feeling. When you're not in the zone, you just want to eat a lot.
So we're now going to shift a little bit more to talk about your comedy work on film. thinking specifically here, the scene we're going to watch from Club Paradise.
Okay.
So similar to the scene we just saw with Edith Prickley, there's a lot of physicality in the comedy. And can you talk about, to kind of set this up, but also thinking about your performance and the role of your body in the type of comedy?
In Club Paradise, are you talking about? Or?
In Club Paradise, but also, with Edith Prickley, I mean, even, you're about to give birth and you still have a very physical comedic.
Well, I've always been fascinated with physical comedians. I think it's such a skill, and I don't think many people do it well. And I mentioned last night this play that I just saw in New York called One Man, Two Governors. He just won the best actor, the lead. Did you see it? How fabulous! Who said yeah? How fabulous was the servant in it? Oh my God! It was if any of you are going to New York, it's running till September, and I think you can get tickets. I mean, really, I'm still laughing at the. It's like kind of music hall theater, and it started at the National Theater in Britain. But to see that kind of physicality, I mean, you see it in Cirque du Soleil; they're brilliant. But this is really pure comedy, and my God, it was just breathtakingly brilliant. So I've always been fascinated with it. I studied mime for a while with Jacques Lecoq. I love the circus. I never ran away to join it, but I still threaten to. Maybe I'm too old. An old clown. A mean old clown. Fuck you! Get out of my seat! Anyway. Oh my God. I love all the Fellini movies. Giulietta Messina, who was his wife and the lead in La Strada and 9½, and any of you kids out there who have not, there was a film festival here, Fellini, but I'm going to tell you right now, you girls, you have to watch these Fellini movies, and you have to watch Giulietta Messina, because she was a pure clown. She could break your heart. And you could laugh at her, and she had so much depth. She just was a wondrous, wondrous performer. And I think as part of your education in comedy, even in acting as a woman, people like Kristen Wiig, these are the Giulietta Messina was really kind of Commedia dell'arte was the beginning, but Giulietta Messina followed in that tradition of Commedia dell'arte, and all the women that have come after her, Imogene Coca and Carol Burnett, and now the Amy Poehler's and Kristen Wiig's, or Catherine O'Hara. That's where it started, and I think it would really behoove you to look at those Fellini films to see the origin of comedy for women.
So we are going to see a scene from Club Paradise. How much of this film was improv?
Well, the physicality was, this shower scene was definitely improvised, and I did all the stunts in there. I don't know if we knew what was going to happen. We just knew there was a powerful shower, and so I asked them to put some things on the wall to hold on to, because I thought I could do something funny with it. I think we improvised a bit, but I can't really remember. Harold Ramis wrote the script, and he's so brilliant. I'm sure we didn't have to improvise a lot, but I know that he encouraged moments. So there are probably moments that were improvised, but the script was definitely written. We were free to play in the movie.
That's great.
Yeah.
So let's watch the clip. Wow, that's incredible. I thought for sure that at least, the legs up scene was like, okay, now someone was holding you. That's crazy that you just
there was a big hose, and there were two metal things on the wall that I held onto, and and it wasn't that heavy, so it just kind of lifted me. But we didn't know what to expect there, so that was fun. Hey, you know what I want to mention? We shot that film in Jamaica. This is completely a side note, but I just saw the most breathtaking documentary on Bob Marley. It's called Marley. Did it come here yet?
It's playing here.
Okay. It's the best documentary. Talk about a young person just knowing, that he had music in him, and the journey that it took, and it's an amazing documentary. You all should see it. I might see it again. How long is it playing here? There's so much to see in it.
I'm looking at one of the film programmers. I think it's playing for another week.
Oh my gosh, it's really phenomenal.
I think she just gave you your first class assignment.
Yeah, my friend. Well, no, I gave you 2 assignments now. I want you to.
yeah.
I want you to see.
Fellini.
I want you to see La Strada, and I want you to see Juliet of the Spirits, and I want you. But start with La Strada, because that's what she's a silent. She can't speak in it, and everything is just physical, and it just breaks your heart. So I want you to see that, and I want you to go see Marley. There you go.
So another
But
one.
I'm not giving you any money to see it, so good luck.
Another one of your memorable characters, Aunt Voula,
Mm-hmm.
My Big Fat Greek Wedding. So how did you get involved with that project?
Nia had written a one-woman show, and that's the movie. So she had been doing those characters in a stage production in L.A. Rita Wilson, who's also Greek, went to see it and then said to Nia, let's see if we can develop this into a film. So Tom Hanks's production company, Tom is married to Rita, the name of the production company is Playtone, hired some actors, and I was one of them, to sit around a table to read the script to see if it could be a film. And sure enough, it was. So that's how it started.
Did you identify at all with the family dynamics, or did you just, get experience from elsewhere? Because I don't know if any of you, I'm from a large family, and watching
you're
that film,
Italian,
it's
right?
yeah. So watching the family dynamic, it was like,
Yeah. Yeah, well, I think any people come from a large ethnic family will identify with it. Now, they'll certainly identify with the aunt. I guess there's always one kind of anti-mame-ish character that's outlandish and bossy. But I did some research in L.A. I was living in L.A., and I met with an Armenian woman who was a professor at UCLA, because I remembered I'd met her once, and there was something very pompous and arrogant about her. And she just knew everything about the Armenian history. And I just liked how she just was a know-it-all. So I recorded her, and I had a picture of her in my little Winnebago, and I kept looking at her, as I do often with parts, actually. I'll imagine how somebody looks, and then I'll have a photo of that person. That's what I did with... that's actually what I do with everything. When I just did Exit the King, on Broadway, which is an Ionesco play, and it's Theater of the Absurd. I actually had a picture of Giulietta Messina in my dressing room. When I did Frau Blucher in Young Frankenstein, I had a picture of Mrs. Danvers from Rebecca, the housekeeper. She wasn't German, but the stature of her. So I like to see in my mind how a character should be. Where were you? What was I'm talking about?
You're talking about Aunt Voula.
Oh, Aunt Voula, that's right, yeah. Okay, so Aunt Voula, well, I think I answered it. I'm Armenian, so I had that. I also did research, and as I said last night, it's just a kind of an all-purpose middle Mediterranean accent. I don't know if it's Greek, I don't know if it's Armenian, it could be Estonian, whatever it is, they bought it.
Okay, well, let's watch that.
So here's the thing about My Big Fat Greek Wedding. Nothing was improvised in that movie. Every word was Nia's. I improvised in the way I said biopsy. That wasn't in the script. But everything, there was no need to improvise because it was so brilliant.
I was thinking when I was watching this clip and thinking about all of the different accents and the play with language and the SCTV skits that you would do, would you just go around observing different people and the way that they would speak? How would you become influenced by, playing with how to say biopsy, or playing with certain kind of words that people stumble over? Well,
in that case, I think it was just kind of a moment of comedy. What was I guess I was thinking of the character and thinking also how pompous that she was. And somebody that pompous would not admit at all that she doesn't understand the word she would just continue and not ask for help. So that probably was character driven. Everything that I have acted in and especially on SCTV, I'm just a big research person. I don't really have the facility to do impersonations. It's just not something that comes easily to me. Marty Short can just do it at the drop of a hat. He's got a fabulous ear. Rick Moranis was brilliant at it. Catherine was. But for me, I'd have to really stand in front of a screen, research, listen. I did an episode of The Simpsons years ago, and I played Apu's mother. I can't pronounce her last name. Apu's mother, and I could not, for the life of me, figure out how to do that accent. So I had to, in my ear, as I was doing the character, I had Hank Azaria, who does Apu, his voice in my ear. So I would just, so I have to work really hard at characters and voices. They really don't come. Edith Prickley comes naturally to me. A couple, but mostly they don't come easily.
So
I have to get into a whole different zone. Yeah.
But you've done so much voice work, so you do a lot of research then for all the children's shows that you've done.
That's a little different. That the children, yeah, that's right. Well, that's Elmo's World, Sesame Street. So I've done a lot of those voices, but those are just kind of. I just think of animations. They show you the animation first, and I see the little character, and then I kind of think about how that character would talk, and I'm kind of imagining how that. But in children's voiceover work, now the trend is not to have that kind of cartoony voice. Now the trend, because of American Dad and Cleveland Show and Family Guy, now the trend is to make it as natural. I haven't done them for a while, actually, but those little cartoony voices, I've done a lot of that. That was a trend at one time.
So we have one final clip before we're going to open it up, and we are going to talk about the recent film you made called Breaking Upwards.
Uh-huh.
And so to provide a bit of a context for the audience, this film was very low budget.
Yes. Did anybody see the movie Breaking Upwards? Oh, that's so cool. It was did you like it? I thought it was a really good movie. So these two young graduate students from NYU, they were 26 at the time, Daryl Ween and Zoe Lister-Jones. They're a couple, and they're also actors. But Daryl directed this, starred in it, and Zoe starred in it. I played Zoe's mother. Julie White played Daryl's mother. The movie was made for $12,000. They just saved all their money up, and the kid who shot the film used his college money to buy a camera. There was no catering. They got I made $200 on it. I wore my own costumes, did my own makeup. Literally the best acting I've ever done in a movie. And he did, I think he did it because it was so natural. Daryl, although they'd written the script, did encourage us to improvise. And so I think the scene that you're going to show, that was all improvised, actually. We were in a clothing store, and the thrust of it was, I'm his girlfriend's mother. He's asking me for help, and I'm talking about getting ready to go out on a date with a guy that I don't know. I'm an extremely uninhibited woman, and I love this boy, and then there's the scene. But it was improvised.
Great. Quick, show that. So if you haven't seen this film, I urge you to watch it. There's some unbelievable scenes. The scenes between you and Zoe, who plays the daughter in the restaurants, were those scripted, or those were just kind of conversations about relationships that?
No, they were scripted, but again, I think what we did was we shot the scenes, and this happens a lot in film now. You shoot the script the way it's written, and then the director will say, okay, throw that out and just do what you want. So I'm sure we did a couple of scenes with ad-libbing, and then maybe he cut some things together. But there was, great freedom. It wasn't just stick to these words.
And you mentioned that you felt like you had really strong performance in here, which I completely agree.
Thank
for
you.
Advice for acting students as well as filmmaking students, how can you, start with the filmmaking students. As a director, how can you encourage your actors? How can you help enable them to have strong performances in the scenes, from your opinion?
As a director, how would I do that? Or what would I say?
From an actor's perspective, what would how can you help out the directors?
Boy, I would say the same applies in any acting. It's just the level of which you are emoting. In film, of course, you can be much more subtle and need to be. But, I think, as my acting coach would say, you make a choice and you put your shoulder behind it. And, that's what the best acting is what do this is basic 101, but what do I want to get? How am I going to get it? And what is the obstacle standing in the way? And if you ask yourself those three questions, you'll be real, you'll be honest, you'll have a place to go, and the stakes will be high. Yeah.
So you've worked on high-budget films, you've worked on low-budget films. In terms of the indie films like this, what is the kind of freedom that you are given that you wouldn't necessarily be given in a larger production?
Well, in an independent film, of course, where they're so grateful for you to even do the film, I just feel there is a lot of freedom. I mean, a movie that I did called Hedwig and the Angry Inch with John Cameron Mitchell, which is a great movie and a great soundtrack. That had the feeling of an independent film, although I think it was a $5 million budget, or maybe $1 million, I don't know, something. It wasn't $12,000. And, John even encouraged improv. And by improv, I mean he set the scene, we stuck to the script, but then if things happened organically, then he would keep them in. So I'm trying to think if there's any movie I've ever done where we really had to stick to the script. Mostly I think directors just want something to look natural. And if that's how they're going to get it, then that's what's going to be in.
How did you get involved in Hedwig?
Well, that's a really interesting story, and it's a great story for acting students. So I'd seen John's stage version of it in New York, and the character that I played in the movie wasn't in the stage version. The character I played was this agent called Phyllis Stein, and I just thought he was a wonder child, John Cameron Mitchell. He just is so magnetic and charismatic, and you're sitting there and you're like, whatever you want, I'll do. I love you. So they had me come into audition, and I auditioned for him, and I wasn't very good. I was living in LA at the time, but I was in New York doing a show. So I said and I knew he was a fan. I knew he was a fan. I said, John, I'm not landing this right now. And I know that I can do it. I'm going to go back to LA. Let me work on this with my acting coach. I did. I went back. I worked on it for 2 weeks with my acting coach. I bought a pair of leather pants because I thought it was right for the character. I had my hair blown out because my hair was really curly. I just felt it was right. I took the flight all the way back from LA to New York in character. The leather pants, kind of a see-through top and my hair, and I just carried on with the stewardess like I was the character. And I walked into this warehouse in New York where he had the band assembled, and he just said, improvise, do whatever you want. And by then I was really the character. My version of it, I didn't know if he wanted it, but I was really solid in how much I loved the Hedwig, how I wanted to help him, how I wanted the band to get more gigs. I was just so into it that he put his arm around me as we were leaving, and he said, you have the part. And that never happens. And, oftentimes I'll go to an audition and I'll think, wow, I didn't land that. Can I come back and do it again? And then you go back and do it again, and it's just as bad as the first time. That's a risk you have to take. But this was different. And I don't know. That's that story.
It's incredible. I feel like there are so many people with questions that we should open it up to the audience.
Put the lights up so I can see everybody. Can you do that in the audience? So I can see? Is that it? Oh, because I'm going to have the spotlight, so I can't. That's better, yeah. Yeah. Yell it out. Do whatever you want. come up and talk, whatever.
There's a question in the back.
Hi.
Could you just wait for 1 sec for the microphone?
Oh, the microphone's
okay.
coming.
Hello. My question is actually more about going through life as a performer, and we have doubts. Everyone has doubts, but it's the hardest thing to deal with, as I think, as a performer, to keep going. And I just wanted to know how, we all have our different ways of dealing with it, but how you have dealt with it, or if you have any advice about getting older and coming to a kind of a crossroads. If that's ever happened.
Well, if you're saying, are you asking me if I've come to a place in my life where I don't have any doubts? I'm sorry to tell you that hasn't happened. That crossroad hasn't happened. I constantly have doubts. What is the difference, and how have I dealt with it? Well, first of all, I am ambitious, and I love performing, and there's nothing else that I can think of doing. So those two things itself have just made me persevere. I say this to people. I'm going to say it again. I don't know what you think about this, but I think competition's so tough out there that if you wake up in the morning and you can think of a few things you'd rather do or that you could do besides acting, then I'm going to have to say I don't think acting is for you. I think it has to be you have to be tunnel vision. It's just so hard. How have I dealt with self-doubt? I have a group of fabulous friends who are successful, and I rely on them. We rely on each other because we all, at different times in our lives, have been rejected, have had bad reviews. We call each other up. We bolster each other. I've been in therapy to talk about insecurities. Not right now, but certainly in my life I have. I have angel cards that I pick, and every day I pick a little card, and it says, brotherhood, and how does that resonate? I meditate. Exercise has been a big thing for insecurity, self-doubt. It actually gets the endorphins going, so I work out regularly. That really helps me from getting too low. I have great agents that bolster me and say, I just did a pilot for CBS and I really wanted it to go and it didn't. But my agent was the first person that said, okay, one door closes, another opens, onward and upward. So I think I surround myself with winners, people that won't bring me down. And if you have people around you that are bringing you down, I'd say get rid of them and get a new group of friends. But I don't know if I answered your question.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
Definitely.
Fabulous. Yeah.
Thank you.
Just keep going.
That
Yeah.
question reminded me of when you were talking about the fact that you were feeling frustrated that you weren't getting parts, and a friend of yours recommended that you
Write my
create your
own show. Yeah. Well, I actually think this is a fabulous time. Yes, it's competitive, but I think it's a fabulous time to pursue acting because there are so many opportunities for you. You can create your own things on the web. You can make low-budget films for $5. I mean, there are just so many vehicles for you. Put yourself on YouTube. Create a blog. There's so many blogs that kids are doing, and producers look at them and think, how can that translate into a television show? There's just so many outlets. What you were asking me about my show, yes. So 2 years ago, I was having a moment of, oh my God, I'm invisible. Nobody knows me. They think I'm retired. What the hell's going on? And I was complaining to Marty Short, who's a close friend of mine, and he said, stop whining and complaining and just write your own show. And I said, no, I don't want to write my own show. It's lonely. I've already done it. I want to be with a group of people. And he just said, shut up and do it. Why don't you just do it and have some fun? You have a collection of material and people want to see it, and you have fans out there, and stop being so complaining. So I did it. I just forced myself to write, even though I didn't want to. I called my musical director, Seth Rudetsky, who you might know from Sirius XM, Broadway channel. I said, what do you think I should do? And he said, just start with your own truth. So I started, and that's why I called it Final Days, Everything Must Go, because it felt like Final Days, Everything Must Go. But now, in 2 years now, everybody's asking me if I'm retired, are they really your final days? So I'm changing the title. So, I just did it. I put one foot ahead of the other. That's all you guts to do. Put one foot ahead. You don't know where it's going to go, but I just would wake up and I'd say, okay, I'm going to write this scene today. And I'd put one foot ahead of the other. And then I'd try it out in front of friends. And then I'd rent a little space and try it out again until I got up enough nerve to book the Algonquin Theater in Huntsville 2 years ago in August. And I didn't know what I had. And that began 2 years of touring the show. So it just started with an idea of of empowering myself. And you all have those opportunities. You rent a little space, you rent a living room, you have a living room, you call friends over, you read, you go to the many stand-up clubs here, read stories from your diary. Lily Tomlin started like that. She would go around the country with her diary. She didn't know her journal, didn't know what she was going to do. And she'd read from her journal, and some of it was funny, some of it was poignant, and that's how her one-person show started. That wonderful comedian, oh God, he's a friend of mine too. How can I not think of his name? Really, he's... points his finger all the time. How can I not remember his name? Oh my God, done all the political shows. It will come to me. This is bad. Anyway, he starts off with stories too. Louis C.K. also, stories, just stories that are true to you. That's what I would say to all of you out there, acting, directing, whatever. Start with yourself. Start with your own truths. And write on that. Enhance it. Embellish it. You don't have to try to be funny at all, by the way, because if you are funny, if you just tell a story, it's going to be funny.
That's great. You're so lovely.
Oh,
The whole time I'm forgetting I'm on stage. And
okay.
Say more. Are there any other questions? Yeah.
Hi. Yesterday you talked a little bit about wanting to move into TV, and you've done musical theater, film, improv. How do you feel like the industry responds to artists such as yourself who maybe have done really well in one area and want to branch out? Do you feel like they're open to not being specialized, or do you feel like specialization is the way to go?
Well, I think there are two questions. Are you an acting student?
Yes.
Do you go to school here?
Well, I just was actually in New York studying.
Where'd you go?
I went to Strasbourg.
Okay.
And also Upright Citizens Brigade.
Fabulous. Mm-hmm. How was that? Did you like it?
Yeah, it was amazing.
Do you want to do improv? Is that what you want?
Yeah, I've been at Second City for a while, too.
Oh, you've been at
before.
Second City. Mm-hmm. Well, listen, Upright Citizens Brigade is the hottest. Second City is fabulous. It's more traditional. But Upright Citizens Brigade producers look, for TV shows, they look to that group. Mm-hmm. Lee Strasberg's a wonderful acting school. Wow. I don't want to throw anybody because I know Canada's slightly different from the United States, but I'm going to tell you the truth. I'm going to tell you what my observation is with actors in New York and in the United States. The people that seem to get casting agents looking at them seriously are kids that have gone on to graduate school. And there are a number of graduate schools in the United States. I don't know how it is in Canada, but I'm just going to tell you in New York how you eliminate a crazy step of how do I get an agent, how do I get seen, how is anybody going to take me seriously. People that have gone to NYU, believe me, I do not undermine the unbelievable competition to get in. But I'm just telling you the reality. If acting school and graduate school is something that you're thinking about, I would really, really pursue it. Juilliard, NYU, San Diego, North Carolina School of the Arts, Cincinnati Conservatory is musical comedy, Yale, These are all graduate programs, and anybody that comes out of those 3-year programs of graduate schools, really, they have showcases. You're going to get an agent. You're going to get a casting agent. That's what casting agents are looking at, of that kind of caliber of a serious acting student. If you're not, if that isn't your road, and that's completely cool, I'm just giving you the truth of what's out there, then I think doing what you're doing, Upright Citizens Brigade, Second City, what is the other one? Improv Olympics. There's another improv, Groundlings, that's in LA. That's a fabulous thing to put on a resume, because that's what people like Judd Apatow and all those people out there, that's what they're looking for. Can this kid improvise? This is what they're looking for.
Do you feel like you need to choose between comedy and drama, or stage
No,
and
I
film,
do not.
or-
I think you should do it all. I think that you get as much experience as possible. I think that, and here's what I really believe, that this generation, and believe me, I have 2 sons, so I'm going to out them too. Your generation thinks that your generation started today, or thinks that show business started today. Honestly, look and read and watch as much as you can about what came before you. Read fabulous plays. Go out and read the classics. Do a classic play. That's what directors want. They want to know that you have a real foundation, that you have a serious relationship to acting, that you just don't want, I want to be on television, that you're serious about your craft, because most people aren't today. That's why everybody from Britain and Australia are getting cast, because they have repertory companies. They get to do all the classics. They get to do so much. We don't do this here. We don't support our students here like that. There are very few repertory companies left in the country. So it's up to you to do it. And that's what I mean. You get a little group together and you put on a Tennessee Williams rose tattoo and you get 6 people. But honestly, go to, if you're in New York, you go to the Lincoln Center for the Performing Arts and you go and you look at if it's a Christopher Durang play you want to do. They have every Christopher Durang play in the library there. You have to know what came before you. It will make you a better actress. It will make you a more interesting performer. And people want to be around people that are interested and curious.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Yeah. Yes.
I'm not an actor. I'm a producer.
Okay. Will you cast me in something?
Yeah,
Please?
let's
Okay.
talk afterward. Well, I actually wanted to know, with Breaking Upwards, I really, really enjoyed your performance in that film. I thought you were just the highlight of that film for me. And it being such a low budget film from emerging filmmakers, what informs your decision to take those risks and to take a chance on young people like that?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I just loved him. I just loved him. I mean, I read the script and I was like, I just had finished Young Frankenstein. It's like I literally made $200, and my agent wanted me to do it, and oh my God, I wanted to go to Muskoka. I was like, get out of here. And then I met him. I read the script and I liked the part, and then I met him, and he just was. And I met her, Zoe, who plays the girlfriend on Whitney. She's if anybody sees that TV show, that's not very good. But anyway, it's a great part for her. It's a great part for her. I'm happy for her. And I just loved him. I just thought he was everything I was just telling you about. I just thought that he was smart and got it and knew me. And he was a 26-year-old kid. He didn't need to know me. And I loved her. She was so connected and real, and I don't know. There was just something about it that I just loved him. So I said yes.
And still,
Yeah.
let's talk afterward.
What's that?
I said, still, we should talk afterward. I would absolutely cast you in anything I would do.
Yeah. Yes, honey.
I had a question about the designation like women in comedy, which everyone's been sort of trotting out lately, especially with Bridesmaids, Lena Dunham as well, and even with Nora Ephron passing and her openly saying she really resented being asked to be on women in film panels. So I was wondering, is the idea, a women comic, is that a title that you look at as sort of a qualifier, or do you embrace that?
I've never been one of those women who have thought of myself as a woman comic. It's a question that's come up all my life. I've never politicized it. It's never been a problem for me. I've always just considered myself an actress, and I happen to be funny. So that's not a label that I put on myself. So I know it's out there, but it's not my experience. And so I would say don't let it be yours, because it doesn't have to be. Lena Dunham is just an extremely talented young girl with a fabulous voice, and who luckily Judd Apatow supported. But I don't think she started out because she was a woman in comedy. She just had a voice, her own voice, and she happened to be a woman. So that's what I have to say about that. Now, don't put I wouldn't even talk about the labels or being a label. You're a beautiful young girl and an actress, and you have your own voice, and so let's hear it. Doesn't make any difference. Doesn't make any difference if there are men out there, and frankly, more women are being hired now. So, yeah. Yes, sir. Thank you. Oh. The question was, I think, could there be an Edith Prickley film? I think that ship has sailed. There was a lot of questions at the time about it. SCTV was around the time we just kind of were before the whole marketing of characters, like all the characters came out of Saturday Night Live and how they marketed into films. We weren't very savvy about how to market ourselves, as I talked about last night. We were just kind of, how do we get this material up? How do we fill an hour and a half? So I don't think we were really skilled at doing our own press or publicity, and I don't think any of us really thought about where our career was going to go. It was a different time, and now I think it's too late. I don't. She had so much energy. Yeah. Well, you know what? I do her in my show, and I do a rap song in the show, and I reinvent her all the time. And so, she's still, the jacket and the hat are still in my closet, and the glasses are there, and I do her all the time. And so that's good. Yeah. But I don't think a movie. But, you never say no. The producer here might want to talk to me later. Yeah. What else?
Will you
Yes. Yes, sir. Thank you. Aw, thank you.
So, who's your hairdresser, and what's your favorite perfume?
My favorite perfume is Joe Malone Tuberose. My hairdresser here is Danielle on Yorkville. I have another hairdresser, Pascal Ben-Simon, in Atlanta, Georgia. And then I go and get my hair blown out with Mike on Broadway in New York City. I love talking about my hair. I couldn't be more neurotic about my hair. All characters start with hair, I'll tell you that. My characters, yeah.
Hello? Where's home these days?
Who said that? Hi.
Hi.
My home, I have an apartment in New York, and I have a little house here in Toronto in High Park. So I go back and forth.
Great.
But mostly I moved out of Toronto in 1980. My golly, I don't know, 83, I think. And I moved to LA with the success of SCTV. And then when my kids went to college, I raised them in LA. And I moved to New York because I wanted to do Broadway. I lived there for 18 years, but I really longed to be back in Toronto. So 2 years ago, I bought a little house in High Park. And now I am going back and forth all the time. So I really missed it. I love Toronto. Everything important in my life happened here and continues to, so.
Including the birth of your child, right?
My birth of my 2 children at St. Mike's Hospital. Compliments of Dr. Wilfred Steinberg.
Do they identify more as Canadian or American?
Do you know, they both, my oldest boy went to Vassar, and then he did a graduate program here at University of Toronto because he loved it. My younger boy went to Kenyon College and then came here for 2 years after. So they really have it in their soul, but they both live in LA where they were brought up. They come here every summer. One of them's coming in a week. I can't wait. And the other one comes in a few weeks. So we're here every November for American Thanksgiving. We celebrate here. We're here at Christmas time. So they really, I don't know, I think they identify as both. But they're very proud to have a Canadian passport. And I'm excited because of any war that might happen in the United States that they can just come up here and, live. They're too old now to be drafted, I guess. Yeah.
Can we back up for a second? You rap?
Do you know, has anybody seen, why can't I remember anything? Louis Black is the name of the comedian I was trying to think of. Louis Black, all his comedy comes from his own self-stories. If you do a class with Louis, he'll just tell you to get up there and tell a story. And then if you're funny, it will happen. I wish we could do that, actually. I was saying to Teresa, I didn't really know the format here, but I would have asked a few people to actually bring something in, and we could have worked on it. That's when I've done musical comedy master classes. That's what we've done, and it's been a great thing. So maybe if there's musical comedy performers here, maybe we'll do one, and we'll have a pianist and bring somebody in, the pianist in. You'll bring some music in, and then I'll help you interpret the song.
The producer will help set it up, and then next year we'll schedule it.
All right. Now, what were you saying? What was the question about?
You rap?
Oh, my rap. Yes. Okay. So Lin-Manuel Miranda. Did anybody see In the Heights? Okay. And I think he also did Bring It On. That was just here. Right. Okay. So I wanted to do a rap song, and I don't know how to rap. So I wrote a rap song, and then I called Lin-Manuel Miranda, and I said, Lin, how do I really make this into a rap song? So he took all my ideas, and then he made it in like 5 minutes because he's a genius. He wrote this song for Edith Prickley, which I did a little of last night, but now I'll do it all for you. I do it really fast. So Edith Prickley talks about that why is everybody so afraid of getting old? Fear is a redhead capable of anything. Fear is the worst thing in the world if you don't count audience participation. Every time I get an invitation to join CARP, I fly into a violent rage. People think I look good for my age. That's some condescending bullshit. You look good for your age. You mean if I looked like this when I was younger, you'd be rushing me to the emergency ward? I'm so old, I still think Mel Gibson's a catch. I'm so old, macrame's starting to make sense to me. I'm so old, I remember when the Dead Sea was only sick, but that ain't stopping me. I'm going to keep going. Are we on the Yes Train, Toronto? Yes, we're on the Yes Train. We're going to keep going till the big man upstairs says, knock it off. What am I supposed to do? Shrivel up and cry now? Menopause and then applause and thank you. Can I die now? What, I'm pushing 60. Suddenly I'm sickly. Hey, suck this Dixie cup. I'm Edith Prickley. All my life I have barreled through every stoplight. Sorry, baby starlet, I don't want to leave the spotlight. Give me the love, give me the stage, give me the laughter. Give me the 32-ounce margarita after. And then the group goes, Edith Prickley. Let me see. How does it go? I can shimmy, I can shake, I can garden, I can bake, I can shimmy, I can shake. You can stay on Golden Pond. I'm skinny dipping in this lake. I'm prickly and I'm proud. I'm prickly and I'm loud. I'm wearing leopard print so you can pick me in a crowd. Give me the energy to live and never settle. Put my pedal to the metal. From the ghetto to the shtetl. Fuck Geppetto. I'm pulling my own string because I got my own song to sing. I told you everything must what? Everything must what? Everything must go. Anyway, that's it. Much better when there's accompaniment.
That was incredible.
Lin-Manuel Miranda, yeah.
That was incredible.
Oh, my God.
Please join me in thanking Andrea Martin for joining us today.